Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Kevin Bigelow, and this is going to be my persuasive speech on obesity in America and why it should not be labeled a disease. Throughout this speech, we're going to go over the meaning of obesity per Wikipedia. We're going to go over a quick overview of some statistics from American Heart Association. We're going to go over obesity recently being declared a disease by American Medical Association, and after that, we're going to move into why it should not be declared a disease. I have a couple of reliable sources on that as well. And then for my conclusion, I'll go over how I see the situation and try to persuade you into leaning towards where I'm leaning towards, okay? First things first, we're going to go over a quick meaning of what obesity is. Okay, his first source is coming from Wikipedia, which states obesity is a medical condition in which excess body fat has accumulated to the extent that it may have a negative effect on health, leading to reduced life expectancy and or increased health problems. People are considered obese when their body mass index, a measurement obtained by dividing a person's weight by the square of a person's height, exceeds 30 kilograms. Okay, just recently I did my own body mass index and it's at 32.5 per this scale. So per this scale, I'm considered obese. But we'll get a little bit more into that later on into the speech. Okay, obesity increases the likelihood of various diseases, particularly heart disease, type 2 diabetes, obstructive sleep apnea, certain types of cancer, and osteoarthritis. Obesity is most commonly caused by a combination of excessive food energy intake, lack of physical activity, and genetic susceptibility. Although a few cases are caused primarily by genes, endocrine disorders, medications, or psychiatric illnesses. Evidence to support the view the same obese people can eat little yet gain weight due to slow metabolism is limited. On average, obese people have a greater energy expenditure than their thin counterpart due to the energy required to maintain an increased body mass. So with that being said, pretty much, if you're thin, you don't really burn that much energy moving around as you would if you were obese. Because when you're obese, you have more weight to move, so therefore your body has to work a little harder, being that you're outside of the normal weight for that height. Okay, now our next source is going to come from the American Heart Association. I'm going to throw a couple statistics out at you, a couple wild factors that you might not have known about. Okay, the U.S. is now in the grips of a full-blown obesity epidemic. More than 35% of U.S. adults are obese. In 2011, the adult obesity rate exceeded 30% in 12 states. 27 more states had obesity rates greater than 25%. On its current trajectory, it is estimated that obesity rates for adults could reach or exceed 44% in each state by 2013. These rates bode poorly for health outcomes. Persons with a body mass index of 30 or greater have a reduced life expectancy of 2 to 4 years less than compared with healthy weight adults. Adults with severe obesity ranging from 40 or greater lose 8 to 10 years of life expectancy, comparable to the effects of smoking. Of greatest concern, the obesity epidemic is spreading to our children at an alarming rate. 31.8% of children in adolescent ages between 2 and 19 are considered overweight or obese. One study has shown that obese children's arteries resemble those of a middle-aged adult. That is terrible. That is terrible. We are not, with these rates, our future will be in dire straits. It will be extremely hard to maintain our country at these alarming rates. Okay. Right now, I'm going to go over the American Medical Association's declaration of making obesity a disease. Okay. Obesity has officially been recognized as a disease by the American Medical Association, an action that could put most emphasis on the health condition by doctors and insurance companies in order to minimize its effects. The new decision was made at the American Medical Association annual meeting by delegates in Chicago and went against a recommendation by a committee that had studied the subject. Dr. Patrice Harris, a member of the association's board, commented in a statement, recognizing obesity as a disease will help change the way the medical community tackles this complex issue that affects approximately 1 in 3 Americans. Change will aid in the fight against obesity-related diseases such as type 2 diabetes and heart disease, and could improve funding for obesity drugs, surgery, and counseling. Whether obesity should be labeled as a disease has been historically debated. In 2008, the Obesity Society officially announced their support of calling obesity a disease. In 2004, Medicare took away wording from its coverage manual that previously said obesity was not a disease. And the Internal Revenue Service has said obesity treatments can count for tax deductions. The current vote of the American Medical Association's House of Delegates countered the conclusions of the Association's Council on Science and Public Health, which has examined the subject over the last year. The Council declared that obesity should not be classified as a disease because the measure that is used to categorize obesity, the body mass index, is flawed. Several studies suggest that body mass index does not measure overall fat or lean tissue / muscle content. Many people who have a body mass index higher than the level that is considered obese are healthy, while others below it can have metabolic issues and dangerous body fat levels. So that's pretty much saying just because your body mass index is under 30 or over 30, it doesn't necessarily mean that you being under 30, you're healthy, and over 30, you're unhealthy. It's pretty much mixed here or there. It depends. Okay, now we're going to go into why obesity should not be labeled a disease. Okay, this information is going to come from Forbes, which states, while no analogy is perfect, in terms of the magnitude of a societal problem, the example of smoking offers a number of points relevant to the discussion of obesity. Smoking is a personal behavior that waxes dramatically and then wanes dramatically over the course of the 20th century. Smoking causes a wide range of diseases from lung and other cancers to cardiovascular disease and chronic respiratory disease. Over the past century, smoking is estimated to have caused 1.6 million deaths in the U.S. However, no one ever proposed labeling smoking a disease. In the 1950s, nearly half of Americans smoked. Starting with publications of the first Surgeon General report on smoking and health in 1964, the prevalence of smoking declined from 42% to 19% in 2010. This occurred in spite of the fact that smoking is a highly addictive behavior. Thus, over the past 50 years, we have witnessed a profound change in society's attitude towards smoking, and this change has accompanied by a substantial reduction in smoking prevalence. Yeah, that's pretty much, just because it's an epidemic doesn't mean you need to label it a disease. And just because you label it a disease, it doesn't mean that it's not an epidemic. Okay? Now we're going to go into another source of information, an article from the Chicago Tribune, which states obesity is a choice, not a disease. In declaring obesity a disease, the American Medical Association has erred as its actions were provided an excuse for those who have the ability to control their weight but elect not to do so. There's plenty of blame to go around for the obesity epidemic, which threatens our future. In the past, home-cooked meals were the norm. Today, we live in an era of eating many meals away from home, unhealthy fast food, and super silent. Restaurant portions are far larger than those that were offered in the past, and we have a tendency to eat all that is put on our plates. Television, radio, and print advertising bombards us with enticements to eat food that is high in calories, including empty calories, fat, sugar, and salt. Our bodies were not designed to be sedentary, but we now spend much of our time sitting in front of some type of screen rather than engaging in vigorous aerobic outdoor activity. And when we go shopping, we must We must ride around until we find a parking spot that is within feet of the entrance. Heaven forbid that we would walk 100 yards. The word disease has typically been associated with illnesses that are considered to be contracted through no fault of the sufferer. Parkinson's and Alzheimer's disease are prime examples. To classify classify as disease the inability to push oneself away from the table and to fail to educate oneself as to healthful eating derives a further nail into the coffin of personal responsibility. That's pretty much saying you can't really label obesity a disease if you're in control of what you eat. Obesity is from eating, excess eating. So you can control what you eat, so therefore you should be able to control your weight. Okay, we've come to the conclusion now. Now we're going to go over what I see obesity as in America. I see it as a huge epidemic. I personally do not think obesity should be labeled a disease. I think it should just be labeled as what it is, just like with smoking. More or less, obesity is probably not going to make any changes because big business wants us to eat fast foods. They want us to not stay at home. They want us to always go out and eat pizzas, eat McDonald's, eat everything that we're not supposed to eat, having all these empty calories, and then they don't want us to work out. They make gym memberships super expensive and healthy food super expensive, but they make cheeseburgers that cost 99 cents and on every corner. So that'll be my conclusion of my persuasive speech. Hopefully this persuaded you into leading you into a more healthy food choice choosing and beating that obesity epidemic and not becoming a statistic on the wrong side of the statistics. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for your time and good night.